And there was one recently in Alaska.
Very unusual that that particular account in Alaska should get in the press. It was a month afterwards. It was kept out of the press for a month, and this involved a huge UFO seen by a Japanese airlines crew flying a cargo plane, a Boeing 747, into Anchorage, Alaska. And they were followed for hundreds of miles by this huge UFO, which was described as a bowl inverted upon a bowl with a rim around it. We call it the Saturn-type configuration. The pilot and the crew members described it as being as large as 2 aircraft carriers placed side by side. They tracked it on their weather radar to make sure that they weren't seeing things. They were in contact with the FAA at Anchorage and also Elmendorf Air Force Base. And they have said, and they've maintained their story, that both locations also tracked it on radar. It wasn't mentioned in the press. It was kept very quiet. It broke in Japan around December 30th, December 31st, and got back into the press in this country after a month. And immediately the FAA officials contradicted their own controllers. The Air Force spokesman also contradicted their own radar operators and told the press that, FAA told the press that the radar was just a double image of the plane. Elmendorf Air Force Base officially said that they were just picking up ground clutter. The 2 smaller objects, which was seen with the big objects, were described as being Mars and Jupiter, although they didn't look like Mars and Jupiter at all. And the last I heard was that the FAA controllers were very upset about this, and the Japanese pilot and the crew members are still sticking to their story, regardless of what our government says.
Well, those are probably the largest objects sighted, don't you think? I mean, that's huge, 2 aircraft carriers.
We've talked to people on Minuteman bases that have described objects described almost as big as that, hovering, coming down very, very suddenly and hovering over the bases, and then going straight up again to a point source. Whatever they are, they seem to be carriers of some kind to be that large. They are not seen that often. The typical UFO is not that big.
Right. Would that be called like the mothership, as some of them use the term?
Well, that's what the Japanese pilot called it, because you had the 2 small ones and the larger one. But usually the so-called mothership is a